the biggest challenge I had was really being big. I grew up learning to be small. And so to be big and to get out there and promote myself and to not feel like I had to do it any of the ways that the experts say, right? Because it's just, yes, I want some advice, but guess what? Sometimes it didn't resonate with me. And I think that's really powerful, that you have to really go with what resonates with you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode here. I'm super excited for today. And in fact, I'm feeling really lucky today, which is why my virtual background is Las Vegas. I think I got to go roll some dice. All right. Today's podcast actually kicks off a new series that we are doing where we interview everyday innovators. What does that mean? Well, that means we're going to be interviewing not just the experts who've written books or people who we put up on those pedestals. We're interviewing everyday people who have accomplished amazing things, who have tapped the power of innovation to differentiate themselves in their own marketplaces, to rise above the noise, stand out from the crowd, solve some crazy sticky problem that's been plaguing them or their organizations. This is everyday people. This is solopreneurs, small business owners, people inside organizations, junior, senior. I'm really fortunate. In my job, I get to go across the globe and actually speak to all these different associations and companies. I mean, I've been with last week I was with the Installation Contractors of America. I think next week I'm headed out to pharmaceutical company. And then after that, I'm doing promotional products. So you get the point. I share with you because it means I get to meet a lot of interesting people. And oftentimes what happens at the end of my speaking sessions or any workshop that I do is people come up to me and share their awesome story of innovation, their hotspot of innovation. And they are everywhere if we just know how to look for them. So I look for them, I gather them, and I bring them to you because I know there's incredible insight and information and ahas in there that we can all learn from. And in fact, I think today, the interview that I'm going to bring to you it's going to be a great way to kick it off. I've known this woman for years and I've seen her transformation, which is why I wanted to have her on. Her name is Connie Warden. She is a yogi master and the president of ZaZen, and we will put the link in the show notes, of course. Here's cool. She has this de-stress in a box product that's so awesome. And her yoga is all about mindful, kindful. And she does these online yoga classes. She figured out a way to be true to herself, but also be innovative and differentiate herself in a crazy cluttered marketplace. I mean, yoga, wellness, I can't even keep up with the number of people in this field. She's done it incredibly well. And she has some really powerful thoughts around learning to play big when you have been playing small your entire life, and how to not be judgmental and be curious, and how those have been the keys to her success, including her everyday innovator style, which is experiential, instinctual. All right, this is so powerful. Let's get to the interview with Connie. I know you're going to get so much out of this. Hey, everybody. Really excited for today's podcast. Connie, it's so good to see your face. Welcome to the show. So tell the world a little bit about who you are and what business you're in.
Great. Thank you so much for inviting me. I always love talking with you. So my name again is Connie Warden, and I have a company called ZaZen Lifestyle. And so ZaZen is a Japanese word for mindfulness. So everything I do, I bring in that mindfulness piece. And the interesting thing is we all know what that is. But like we say, or like it's said, we don't need more information. We need to be inspired. And so that's what I feel like I am. I'm an inspiration. So I'm an acupuncturist, a yoga nut, a curiosity junkie. And so my thing right now is doing yoga online and also promoting my stress relief in a box, which is lots of different products that help with bringing mindfulness and a lot of tools that we need, that we know we need, that we don't do. And so it's an inspirational box to help release stress.
So we're going to dig into this a little bit, Connie, but you've already, I think, given us a little bit of not just inspiration, but a how-to, which is, I know, which is why I'm having you on here, that part of what the way you've driven innovation is through this box that you've created. And so I'd love to talk a little bit more about that. But you said, right, like we know what to do, we don't do it. So you were trying to figure out ways that you could deliver mindfulness to people in a way they would actually do it. So I think that there's just I just want to take a second and make sure that we don't go too fast on what you just said, which is a powerful insight, which is like figure out where those gaps are of knowing and doing. And in there's space for innovation, because that's kind of what you did with your box, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. I love innovation. I'm the curiosity junkie. That's why I love your stuff.
We're all about the curious over here. Hey, yeah. Let me ask you a question. The wellness space is really crowded and cluttered. And I think there's a lot of people and a lot of Instagram stars that I don't know what they do, but there's a lot of them, right? And they, to me, in a lot of ways, all look the same. So I'm curious how you think about your stuff being different in a meaningful way.
That is one of the things I've had to overcome, because there is so much. Even if you just try to look for an Instagram name, they're all taken anything to do with wellness, right?
Yeah.
So I use mindful, kindful yoga, mindful kindfulness, always bringing in that mindful and that kindful piece, which is really what awareness is about, or a mindful awareness. It always has to be bringing awareness and compassion. And so that's how I feel like I'm different from a lot of people.
What has been one of the biggest challenges that you faced and now let me just say this for the community. I mean, it's probably apparent in the conversation, but Connie runs her own business, right? So you've got these online yoga sessions, I guess is what we call it.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you've got this, we hold up the box. I love the box. Yep. The stress relief in a box, all the tools you'll need to conquer stress, right? So you've got that. So in your business and in launching these businesses, because I won't say they're recent, but what is it about in the last year that you've really made this shift? What have been what's the biggest challenge and how have you overcome it?
I knew this question was coming.
I prepped you on that one.
I wrote down a couple of different things, so I'm going to try to decide. The biggest challenge I had was really being big. I grew up learning to be small. And so to be big and to get out there and promote myself and to not feel like I had to do it any of the ways that the experts say, right? Because it just, yes, I want some advice, but guess what? Sometimes it didn't resonate with me. Yeah. And I think that's really powerful, that you have to really go with what resonates with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And in fact, I'm smiling because there's two things I just want to add to that conversation, because I think it really resonates with me, and I've no doubt will resonate with the listeners and viewers and people who read this later. One is that whole kind of, you have to learn to play big. And I think that for a lot of us, our upbringing was always like, keep your head down. People will notice you if you just keep your head down and do a good job. And that's not really how the world works. And I know people don't really probably know this about me, but I don't actually need or always enjoy being front and center. So like if it were up to me, everybody else would be front and center and I'd be like in the back being like pushing people into it, right? Yeah. So it has been a learning curve for me too, to realize how to put yourself out there in a way that's real to you, but also not shy away from it, because people do want connections, right? People buy from people, not just companies anymore. So I just, as you were saying that, I was like, yeah, I feel like I constantly dip my toe into the spotlight. And when it gets really bright, I'm like, never mind. And I kind of back off, but that doesn't actually help me make the impact I'm trying to make.
I guess that meaning, that is meaningful for you, and that you can overcome some of the difficulties of being front and center, because you're going to get criticized at some point, right? And you're going to have to take that, whatever, but that's your style. I have to just tell you that I have an article in this book.
A mile in her shoes.
But at least it's the top part. Don't be invisible. Be Fabulous,
Mm.
Doris Birch. And so my whole life was learning how to be invisible. I make fun of myself by saying I could probably help you in the witness protection program. I am so good at being invisible. But it doesn't work. It's not going to bring out what I need to do that resonates with my soul in this world, in this time.
Hey, can I ask you a personal question on that?
Sure.
About the invisible side? Were you satisfied being invisible? And or are you more or less satisfied now that you're playing a little bigger or a lot bigger?
Oh, you know what? Definitely more satisfied being bigger. Being small and being invisible is just safe. It doesn't have a lot of meaning behind it, right? We all have something that we have that is meaningful for the world. That's probably one of my biggest worries, is that I will die, but not doing what I came here to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I smile because I feel, like, I feel like a lot of us feel that way, but some of us have gotten more in touch with that feeling.
yes.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to flip it for a second. And by the way, before I do that, thank you for sharing that, because I think it is safe to play small, and we can justify it all day long. And I do that every time I go dip my toe into the spotlight and go back. I have a justification for it, but the truth is I'm just afraid of being in the spotlight, And it's funny, I don't mind the criticism. In fact, I will engage with the people publicly who criticize. I'll engage with them to find out more about why. And funny enough, they never tend to respond. So after I respond to them, it's kind of funny. So, and I especially think online, if you do it online, and not all playing big is online, a lot of people feel permission to say things that aren't as nice because it's a little bit anonymous. And so you do have to kind of get a little bit thick skin around that. But I like to play with them. I'm like, go on, tell me more. And then they just kind of disappear.
yeah, that is interesting.
And maybe I'll learn something. That's the other thing, right? Like, you never know. Maybe I'll learn something from them too. Okay. So when you think about playing big, how did you overcome that then? Like, if you were to give another everyday innovator who's out there some advice on how to push through that kind of desire to be safe and invisible, what would you tell them?
So a wise teacher once said, and you may not agree with this, but we have a positive mind, a negative mind, and a neutral mind. And the positive mind is always looking for things that are going to benefit you, right? And the negative mind is like, what's going to hurt me? Right. And the neutral mind, which is the intuitive mind, that mind is always searching for what resonates with your soul.
Oh. So it's almost better to be neutral.
Yes. But it's a place we come in and out of. And that's what I love about doing yoga, because it makes me come into that. And mindfulness, it makes me go, okay, stop that story that's a couple of years old. We're here.
Yeah.
And so I think the biggest thing is that I'm freaking curious as all hell. Now, I have to tell you, the reason why I am so, I can be so invisible was my dad was, he could have probably used some anger management. Okay. And so he was quick to hit.
Yeah.
And so, it was safer to not be seen. But the other thing I learned from my dad was my curiosity. I was born in the 60s, and we would go check out like different services that we had a guitar, and we're at the altar, singing. We would go to the planetarium. And so my curiosity will always win out, no matter what. I will push past that uncomfortable, okay, I'm going to be seen, in order to discover something new. Yeah.
So the advice there really is to just try to drive with your curiosity in the driver's seat, not the fear, not the safeness. Put those in the passenger seat.
Yes.
I love that. So what's something that you are really proud of that you've accomplished in the last couple of years?
Okay. I'll tell you, probably one of the biggest things was public speaking. And, I would go to Toastmasters. I think I went for about almost a year before I said my first speech.
That's a long time in that too, the way it's structured, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I did speak, but when I finally committed to going every time and speaking, and then I was the president of the club, and I still go, because if you don't use something, you lose it, right? So I still go and I practice speaking in public. And that's just, that to overcome that is big. They say that's people's worst nightmare, is to go in public and speak.
Yeah. I think, I do a lot of speaking, as you know, and I think people either really love it or really hate it. But I think the people who love it either fear it but want it, or are natural. Like, I think some people really do just get on stage and like it's their jam. And then the rest of us had to kind of overcome sweating and, panicking and increased heart rate just to get on stage, but we wanted it. It's not that we didn't want it. We just we had a hurdle to get over to get there. And, I just have to say, Connie, and I hope the people listening really catch this, what I really appreciate about you is you, probably more so than a lot of people I know, are so willing to put yourself out there and just give things a try, even when it feels really uncomfortable. And I think that's a big part of your success in life and in work, is simply being willing to keep at it when it's really uncomfortable. And I think we forget that, and I'd love to get your perspective on this, that uncomfortable feeling is actually temporary, but we let it drive us because we think it's forever. But I think, as once we do it, once we try it, once we kind of get over that hurdle, the discomfort may not ever go away, but it definitely becomes manageable, at least. What do you think?
I think we all have an inner warrior that can hold two things at once that are maybe even very different. And when I was thinking of coming on today, I was thinking about the time I was at my dad's funeral, and somebody said something funny, and I got the giggles. I couldn't stop laughing. So I had to go underneath the pew, right? Because I am just laughing. And the thing is that what I've learned is that we can hold both things. We can hold being uncomfortable, and we can hold, I'm going to go for it. Just like in martial arts. Now, and I know you do, I think I've done a lot of martial arts.
Yes, I do. That's why I thought you had some swords on your wall earlier.
Yeah.
Golf clubs, everybody. Don't worry.
You're going to be a little fearful if you're going to go spar with somebody, but you got to also hold up that, the knowledge and trust that you've learned some things and you can use. So it's both,
Yeah.
And I think we were talking about my dog. I kept doubting. I had this doubt about putting my dog down, but I could clearly see that she was, so I had to hold both this doubt and this, it's time, and
like doubt and confidence at the same time.
Yes. You wouldn't think you could do that, but we can't. And we have that warrior resilience in us as human beings.
I love that. And here's what I just want to take a moment to pause on that, because I think when you're trying to be an innovator, and whether that is kind of like you who owns your own business and is trying to kind of carve out this space and mindful, kindful. Am I saying it right? Mindful. Yep. Yeah.
Kindful.
I love that. I just want to make sure I said it right. Mindful, kindful. But also, or if you're a leader inside a company, I think that we try to be one or the other, like all confidence or all doubt. And I love what you're saying here, that, hey, actually, it's totally normal to hold both. And in fact, we probably do. And I actually, now that you're saying that, just clicked for me. I think that need to be one or the other is partially what holds us back, because it's like trying to be fearless. Like you've heard me say, you can't be fearless. It's so silly. Like, it's part of our design. So I love what you're saying there. So I want to take that, something that translates into transitions us into the next question, which is, share with us one or two innovative things, big or small, that you've done that have really helped you stand out in this kind of crowded, cluttered, competitive market space that we're in.
One of the things I started doing was Facebook Lives about how we take what we learn on the yoga mat and apply it practically to the world. I don't know if anyone's ever done that, but I've gotten a lot of great feedback. Now, it took because it's so different. Yeah. And, for example, I talk pretty slow. I am a person who instinctual.
Like the opposite of me. I'm all,
I know. And I had to be okay with that.
Yeah.
that I talk a little slower. I've had people, I'm just pausing as I'm thinking, and then they just go right over me. And I'm like, well, I'm not finished, but I had to be okay with that. That's my style. I can't be the fast talker, but that's not me. I know I appreciate people who can do that. But so I think one of the biggest things I overcome was just not being like somebody else.
Yeah. So I love that. And I want to kind of apply it back to your business for a second with those Facebook Lives and like the yoga mat, off the yoga mat lessons. And I did Bikram yoga the other day. And it is funny how there's something about yoga, no matter the style. I think that when you do it, you have all these aha moments about your life. It's just kind of how, and then you realize how you operate in life. How do you think, or why do you think doing these kind of lessons off the yoga mat live things brought people into your community and customers into your business?
Because they resonated with it. Because they would resonate. And, like something so simple as hardness forgets, softness remembers on so many levels. So if our muscles are tense because we're probably angry, we forgot how to be compassionate, right? And we become soft, we come to our heart, we can be compassionate. And on so many levels, and people get it.
So it's interesting to me because I don't know that I've seen that not only not in a Facebook Live, but just in general about that focus. When you think about that, what made you decide to pick that as I don't know if it's a marketing thing or just part of your business, but what made you decide to do that versus, there's a million other things you could have done, right?
Because it's what I truly believe. It's what I truly believe. I started yoga when I was 16 or 17, one of those, probably right in between, because I discovered the mind-body connection. And if we want to be relaxed in our body, we have to be relaxed in our minds. Or, and also open-mindedness helps us actually have a more relaxed body. And I really like this. When we have a relaxed mind body, we have more confidence.
Isn't that interesting?
It is. It's really interesting. So that just was my style. And I didn't realize that this is just my style. I want to be practical.
So I feel like that was like a great tip right there too, about like the mind-body connection there. Let's talk a little bit about your stress relief in a box, because one of the things that you did was you went to people that you knew and said, hey, I'm going to do this thing. I would love your feedback on it. Here's what it is. Talk to me a little bit about that process of taking your idea and getting feedback. And just for the community, part of the reason I'm asking this is what I find holds people back is their willingness to put their ideas out there. Like, we're all afraid, I don't know, someone's going to take it. I think that's just an excuse for being afraid to share people and people not like it. And then B, kind of the process of getting feedback of what people liked and what they didn't like and what you did with that.
It seemed like people gravitated to certain things, right? And then the people also had suggestions. Like when I gave them to teachers, all the teachers wanted chocolate in it. It was hilarious, right? So, and like I did, nurses, they needed something really different. So I did a special meditation for nurses because they never feel they're doing it enough.
Yeah.
So that was just really great feedback. My little heat packs that I intended to, sit at your and have good posture. People put underneath their knees and it helped it sit. They put it on their hips. Some would get ready in the morning and so it was great feedback. And everyone just had a little bit of different, which is what I like about the box, because there's lots of different ways of using these different tools.
So there's a couple things in there I just want to ask you a couple more questions on. One is, you had said different markets, right? Different people needed different things. And I think that's a really important insight when we're trying to innovate, is to think about what the different markets need. I think we tend to innovate from our own perspective and not think, well, what does the person on the other side need? I'll give you a small example just to add to this is, we released this Everyday Innovators digital magazine, this monthly magazine it's really a toolbox of like all this awesome innovation exercises and tools and how to influence others. It's great, right? But one of the things we discovered is some people love the longer articles And some people need audio because they're never in a place where they can read. So we got that feedback from people and said, hey, I'm really interested in the longer articles. Like, I love the depth, but I can't read them. So I can't, like, that part of the magazine doesn't help me. And I was like, oh, well, I'll read the article and then we'll have an audio part of it as well. As, it's interactive, so we can embed it. But I wouldn't have known that had I not asked for feedback. And I think when we innovate, it's really important that we're open to what people like and also what they don't like.
Yeah. And we have to be open to hearing things we may not want to hear.
Yeah.
And that's that.
Yeah.
And then you got to go, okay, but this is what I want to do. This is what I think, eventually, because everybody's going to have,
Well, you said in the beginning, I do think, particularly when it comes to getting advice, that you got to put that through your own filters. And what I've learned the hard way is that what works for other people may not work for me. I'm not the right personality, voice, channel, customer. And I've tried that, right? I've tried to copy best practices of other people, and it tends to fail for me. So I've kind of learned that the hard way of, like, take the advice. Sometimes it's really good, but also put it through your filter.
Absolutely. And again, that's what I love about yoga and mindfulness, because it puts you in that place. Yeah. Okay. Because you will feel that in your body, right? Everything that we experience in the world is felt in our body. Love, joy, compassion, anger, all of that. And yet we're cut off right at the neck most of the time.
So when you think about your Stress in a Box and your online yoga, what are you most excited about with it all?
Really getting it out there to people, to the everyday person, and making it very practical and helping people's lives.
So we're going to put the links in the show notes, of course. I feel like you've given us so much to think about, not just in terms of innovation in business, but just in our own lives too. I'm curious. So you are an instinctual experiential. That's your everyday innovator style. For those of you who haven't yet, go to my website, go to launchstreet.com, links in the show notes, take the assessment, discover your style. I would love to hear, I think, Connie, from your perspective, where that instinctual and experiential has really helped you elevate your game and drive this business forward of yours. And for, again, those listening, if you're an instinctual experiential, the instinctual side is very much about connecting the dots, circuitous thinking, trusting your gut, seeing patterns and insights that other people don't see. And the experiential is all about innovation in motion, which I think is why I was fascinated by when you went out and got feedback, because to me, that's a very experiential thing to do, is to, like, all right, I'm going to put the box together and then get feedback. I'm not going to just tell people, because that's not in motion, right? That's kind of just like keeping it in my head. So, but when you think from your perspective, how have you leveraged those two things?
Boy, they just seem so natural to me.
Yeah.
It's amazing that I have to really think about pulling it apart, because how can people not want to experience certain things? How can somebody not go, no, this is right. So for example, I'm just going to give you an example, a yoga pose. And I said, you know what? This is not right. This isn't the way we should do it. That's going to hurt people's knees. And then I'm taking a class from this person who's teaching anatomy for yoga instructors, and she's also a physical therapist and had been in pain for 10 years due to yoga. So she's got lots of advice. She goes, you shouldn't do that with your knee. People can't move that way. And I'm like, thank you. I knew that.
That's the instinctual side. Like, you already saw it. Other people were like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. But I really rely on my intuition and what really does resonate with me to move forward.
So, and I have to say, just from the observational side, because I've known you for, oh my God, how many years have you and I been kind of in and out of each other's worlds? 5, maybe 6?
Yeah.
It's been a long time. Yeah. Since we first met, and we've kind of, just for the audience, like, kind of woven in and out, and you're in the online academy. So I see you kind of on a regular basis on our bursts and in the jam sessions and so on. So what I think is really interesting is, and you said it in how you put the business together, your business, is about, you saw that there was a gap of knowing and doing. You saw that there was this gap of this kind part of it, and things had become very harsh in the fitness world, for lack of a better way to say it. And doesn't speak to everybody. Not everybody wants that. And I think that part of it is your instinctual side, seeing the patterns and the insights that other people don't see. And the experiential side then pulls it together and turns it into something. Because experientials have to do. And what's funny about that is, so I'm an experiential risk taker. So we have the experiential comment. I have to do, like, when I told you that I was going to start doing these podcasts a little bit differently, I just started doing it. I can't possibly innovate if it just stays in my head and I do a 5-point plan. Like, that does not work for me. I just have to do it and see what happens and like innovate from there. But inquisitives, as you know, because we know a few in our academy, right? They have to dig deep and ask questions before they do. But for them, that works better. For me, that does not work better. The questions come after I try. And I feel like that's kind of the same for you too. It's like, even like with your Facebook Lives, you try, and then you figure out, like, and then you start to figure out what's working and not working.
Exactly. Yes. I do like to get out there and do. And like, if you could see what I'm looking at right now, like you probably, with your sticky notes all over the place. Gosh. It's gotta be, I gotta touch.
Yes.
I gotta be able to see
everywhere.
Yeah. And on a calendar, I write down, I X things out and say, write down what I did so I can look at it and get a dopamine hit. Because when we complete things, it's a nice dopamine hit, right?
It feels so good. That's why I'm like you, I have my sticky notes on the wall. And then every time I do, and everything is very specific so that all the time I can take a sticky note and move it to the completed. There's a blank page on my wall that I start with, and then as I do stuff, I move it over there. And there's nothing more gratifying than moving that.
I know, right?
But people who aren't experiential don't always feel that way. That's the funny part, right? I'm like, wait, how do you not? For them, they need a different system to make it work. I have a friend who's a collaborative tweaker. So for her, she needs a whiteboard where she can like erase and rewrite and edit things. That's how she gets that same dopamine hit from like scratching it out, but then rewriting it into something else. It's kind of funny.
And changing it and transforming it. And that's pretty cool.
So hey, so what's your piece of advice for everyday innovators out there also looking to do what you're doing, right? To innovate, to ignite innovation, to influence others, and to make that impact?
Stay curious. Mm-hmm. Stay really curious. And find rhythm. This is going to sound really interesting, but find ways that you can have a rhythm in your life, whether it's every morning I do this. But when we do something that's rhythmic, whether it's walking, biking, running, dancing, we start to bring our energy in, right? And this is a really good place for insights to happen. So our bodies love rhythm. When we're out of rhythm, we're stuck. Bring some rhythm.
So you probably already heard about this, but I recently discovered ecstatic dance. Am I saying it right?
Okay.
And it's like tribal movement. So it's groups of people, they get together. The music's very tribal, is I guess the way I describe kind of the rhythm of the universe kind of music. And you dance alone. You're not there to be with anybody else or dance with anyone else. And you can do whatever the heck you want. I found a YouTube video on it the other day with the music and just kind of did it in my living room. And it was, first I felt weird. Yeah. And then I was like, I'm sitting in my living room doing this like weird dance moves. And it was whatever you want, like whatever the music speaks to you. And then over like a little while, I just so got into it. And I haven't felt that alive in a long time. Like it was a weird sensation to just feel so centered, I guess.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Could you imagine like if you were stuck, you say, okay, let me put on this music. Let me just get rhythmic and move, because movement is so important.
Yeah. Well, and I love to do, I tend to do push-ups or walking in between stuff to just get rid of one task and move on to the next. But I started, to your point, like about rhythm, I started to think about dance as like, I wonder if I could just do 5 minutes of movement. Like, and I think people, the reason I bring up the story is I think that, to your point about rhythm, we shy away from dance if we think we don't know how to dance, right? If we don't have rhythm. But ecstatic dance is just get connected with the music. That's all it is. So I love what you're saying about rhythm. And I think that's really great advice. And I think especially for those of us stuck in cubicles and offices all day, like find a way to get some movement in your life. I think what Connie is saying here is so important. Yeah. So before I ask the last question, where can people go to get your stress relief in a box, Can you just show what's in it real quick and then where they can go to kind of join your online yoga?
You know what? You can probably see it all online. There is so much in it, and I don't want to waste this time. But my name is Connie Warden, and it's conniewarden.com. Under it is stress relief in a box. There's a video that explains everything. Lots of different little pieces in there.
And on Instagram, you are. What are you?
ZaZen Lifestyle. Oh, gosh, I have two.
Okay, we'll put
ZaZen Lifestyle.
Okay, we'll put both in the show notes. I love your Instagram. I follow. I stalk on Instagram. I love the insights. I think they're so powerful. Cool. All right. So my last question is, because this is my favorite of all the questions. It's what's one thing we'd be surprised to learn about you? A hobby, a passion, an experience.
That I've been a martial artist for 12 years. I mean, of course, you remember the story about how my husband was gone. He traveled a lot. Okay, yeah, this is funny.
So, hey, if you're listening out there, do not turn it off now because this is the funniest story you'll ever hear. Okay, go.
So one of the martial arts I did was ninjutsu, and we worked with a lot of different weapons. And so I was laying in bed at night. My husband was gone. He was traveling, and I don't know. I got a weird feeling. So I went into my drawer and I pulled out my dagger. Right. So the dagger's really got to be really careful because it is sharp on both sides, except for the handle.
Yeah.
Right. So I put it underneath my pillow. Well, I totally forgot about it. And so a couple of days later, he comes in bed because I'm sleeping and he puts his hand underneath the pillow and he goes, Connie, is there a weapon under the pillow? And I'm like, oh yeah, darn, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll get rid of that. Anyway, that was,
oh my God. It just, the idea of first of all, Connie, that you forgot there's a double-sided dagger under your pillow. Let's start there. And then your man is like, honey.
He was so calm too.
I would have been like, what the shit?
Or take my hand out real quick. What is that?
Oh, I love that story so very much. And you know what I love about your surprising thing is, and I feel this way, I guess, every time I hear it is, you just never know what's under the hood with people, and that's why your advice about curiosity, I think, is so important, because if we just took one more moment to be a little bit more curious, we would just learn so much about the people around us.
And I think we have to in this day and age right now.
Yeah.
With what's, and being open.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as we won't turn this into a political/social conversation, but I will say that I think people are dynamic and we're way more than just who we voted for, what house we live in, what neighborhood, what school our kids go to. Sometimes we forget that we're dynamic. There's a lot more than just one decision that makes us up.
Yes. So instead of being judgmental, be curious.
Instead of being judgmental, be curious. That's the note we're going to end on.
Okay.
Connie, that was amazing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.